But let's have a bit of light relief now, for God's sake. Did you know we've got the Olympic Games going on? Well, if you were there up until 1948, you'd be able to go to the gallery to check artists. Art was an Olympic sport. It really, really was. So let's talk to the People's Art critic, Estelle Lovatt. Hi, Estelle.
Hello, Kevin.
Well, tell us about the art as an Olympic sport. What sort of the pictures or the artworks had to be to do with sport, but
yes.
it started beginning in 1912 and carried on until 1948. So those were the German Olympics, weren't they? So for a long time. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so as you rightly said, every art piece had to be linked to the concept of sport or the idea of sport. And if an artist won an Olympic medal for their artwork, that was obviously a great advert for them as an artist. And if you think about it, when we think of the 5 divisions that were nominated, it was architecture, literature, music, painting and sculpture. All the works had to be original and sport inspired, as you said, but an artist could submit multiple works if they liked, which meant that they could win more than one medal in a competition. And the same as today, there was the traditional, the gold, the silver and the bronze awards given out for the categories. But it wasn't until 1912 wasn't until the 1920s that the art competitions actually began to be taken quite seriously, and the artworks grew from 193 works being submitted in 1924 up to over 1,000 in 1928. And then in the 1932 Olympics, they had well over 384,000 visitors going to see the Museum of Art. And that was even though people sort of declined in participating in the Games that year. And then after that, the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, they were putting certain rules on to the artists, and they found that perhaps it was professional artists that were submitting, and they didn't really want that. They wanted the hobbyist or the Sunday painter, if you like. But we had some great winners. We had the Irish painter, Jack B. Yeats, and Laura Knight. And if you trace it right back to ancient Greece, art and sport did go hand in hand. And it was a case of exercising not only the body, but also your mind. And that was what the founder of these art Games in the Olympics laid out their plans.
Do you know what's interesting, Estelle, is and by the way, I'm just noting that British artist John Copley took home the silver medal in 1948 at the notorious Berlin Olympics for graphic arts. As you say, Jack B. Yeats, the Irish artist, scored silver for his impressionism, his impressionist canvas, the Liffey. And the Luxembourg artist in 1924, Jean Jacobi, clinched 2 golds for his painting Étude de Sport. So his painting.
Actually, you know what was really interesting, and you'll know this. The Christ the Redeemer, the big concrete 98-foot high concrete statue in Rio de Janeiro, that was by Landowski, and he won an Olympic gold for his sculpture of a boxer. But yeah, his most famous work is that huge concrete Christ.
Same thing. There's one in Lisbon as well. Was that him as well? Must be.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I think it's the same. It's the same. Portuguese culture, you see what I mean? I think he probably did both. It's just as big in Portugal. It just doesn't get quite the publicity that the other one does.
Actually, you know, there's a really good exhibition on at the moment at the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge, which is about sport, art and the body. And it's going back to Paris in 1924, so it's 100 years from the last Paris Olympics. But it deals with how avant-garde European modernist artists helped shape the Olympic Games through image.
Quick word from you, Estelle, about the Friday's bizarre opening ceremony for the Olympics, the crux of which, I wouldn't call it the highlight, probably the low light, was the drag queen spoof of Da Vinci's Last Supper. Now, that painting, the real Last Supper by Da Vinci, is extraordinary because it is a perspective masterpiece, isn't it, apart from anything else. I didn't like to see it spoofed like this, did you?
Well, the thing is, what's really interesting, Kevin, is that people have said, oh, it's based on Da Vinci's The Last Supper. And actually what it's based on is a pagan celebration which is connected to the gods of Olympus, and in particular Dionysus.
Dionysus.
Yes, who was the
Dionysus, we think.
Dionysus, who was the star of Titian's painting of Bacchus. Rubens painted him as well. And that's why, you know, when people have said, oh, well, it's definitely The Last Supper. It isn't. It is to do with this idea of the god of wine, of pleasure,
yeah,
of
but
madness.
you're listen, Estelle, I think you're cutting them too much slack. I'll tell you what they were doing. They're taking the mickey out of The Last Supper. That's what they're doing.
No, I don't think so. And I tell you
I think they are. I think that you think that bunch of drag queens know all about Dionysus or Dionysus.
But wait a minute. You know, if we're looking at Da Vinci's image, there are 12 apostles who are sharing the last meal, whereas with this group, which is reenacted by, as you say, a group of drag queens and transgender models, but there's this blue figure, isn't there, in the middle of the table on a bowl of fruit. And, you know, people have said, well, why is he blue? Well, he wasn't there in Da Vinci's Last Supper. But is he blue because he's meant to be like a big grape? And what do we get from grapes? Wine.
Maybe, but I just think it was extremely crass.
Well, that's something else, yes. But I agree with you about that. It was quite a strange... it was a strange performance, but it was about Greek mythology, not The Last Supper.
OK, I'll let you have that. Estelle, great to talk to you, as always.
And you.
Estelle Lovatt, the People's Critic there, People's Art Critic. Always a pleasure to talk to her.